This is WWE superstar Drew McIntyre, and you're listening to the WWE Podcast.
The champ is
the one that everybody wants, me.
Lynch is going to WrestleMania. Claymore!
Austin 316 says I just whipped your ass. This is my iron. You're gonna acknowledge me.
What's going on, everybody, guys and girls? Welcome back to another edition of the SmackDown Review right here on the WWE Podcast. As always, I am one of the hosts of this show, Michael Ritter. You can find me on X at Michael5Ritter, on Instagram at MichaelRitter5, and also one of the hosts of the Football Function Podcast, available on all of your podcasting platforms, including whichever one you're listening to this show on right now, and also available on Patreon if you prefer an ad-free listening experience. And I can't remember if I mentioned being sick on the previous episode that I did. I know that the series of events in terms of this past week, which was an absolute hellhole of a week, I'll get into that here in just a second, but as I was recording the last SmackDown review, I think that's about the time that I started getting sick. And I'm still sick. Like, this is about 8 days straight of me just not being 100%. And yeah, it's been a process. It's definitely been not one of my most memorable weeks or my favorite weeks, so to speak. There's just a sickness bug that's been going around my house, and everybody's gotten it at one point or another. Me personally, it started last Saturday. I went to work, I had to do a half day, and I could kind of feel my throat being a little bit sore. Like, I knew, all right, this doesn't feel right. Came home, I knew I had to, record the SmackDown review. I knocked that out, and throughout the rest of the day on Saturday, I was just kind of like, this feels a little bit weird. I wasn't super ill to the point to where I couldn't get off my bed, but it was pretty clear that something wasn't right. So I kind of just had to play it by ear, see if it went away, because that's typically what happens. I'll take a little bit of medicine, and, I kind of just beat sickness. That's always how I've done it. I've never been one to go to the emergency room just because I don't feel good. I don't really like, medicine or shots or anything like that to begin with. So, if I can avoid it, then that's what I'm going to do. But Sunday, so the day after last Saturday, that's whenever it really turned up a few notches. And I was very limited. I couldn't record my typical Football Function podcast that I record on Sundays. And it ended up delaying the draft recap coverage almost like an entire week. So it pretty much threw my entire week and all my plans for a loop. Turns out, here we go Monday, I had to call into work. I was not able to do the manual labor that is required at my job. And Tuesday, I ended up going to work thinking that, no matter how I felt, I was going to push through it. Wednesday, I got straight up sent home from work because, it just got worse. I had a fever. My nose was just so stuffed up that I couldn't even breathe out of it. And you could hear it in my voice now. I'm still not 100%, but you will also have to bear with me. I'm not sure if you could hear that right now, but apparently they're doing some hardcore roofing or something across the alley right out here outside of my studio. So I'm not sure what that noise is. So you're going to have to just, I guess, bear with me if you can hear it. I can hear it pretty clear. I'm not sure if it, if the microphone is picking it up. I'm sure that it's picking up at least a little bit of it. But if not, then good. That's better. But just in case you can hear a nail gun, that's what that is. But nonetheless, after I got sent home from work on Wednesday, went back to work on Thursday and Friday, but I was not 100%. And here I am Saturday, still not 100%. So I'm kind of just, playing it by ear. Hopefully I can make it through this entire episode. I'm sure that I will, but my voice is probably just going to be hanging on by a thread as I'm trying to, I guess, finish up this home stretch of the week, which is the SmackDown review, the 194th that I am a part of here on the WWE Podcast. I did want to just go ahead and say that the episode of SmackDown itself, kind of like last week, other than the draft, this episode of SmackDown, I don't feel like was very impactful at all. I don't feel like this was one that is going to just be talked about, for years to come. I mean, there are some good things about it, I will say. For example, the crowd. Like, the crowd was absolutely out of their mind for the majority of the show. There were times whenever they were chanting that I couldn't really understand what they were saying. Sometimes they would break into a chant, all in sync, and I really didn't know what they were saying or how, the action in the ring led to that chant. It just didn't really seem like it matched from time to time, but it is what it is. I'm sure it's just a little bit of a different type of sporting experience over there. They did do a hell of a job, though. The highest grossing SmackDown in WWE history from Lyon, France. So, you definitely have to give them a shout out. This episode of SmackDown aired on May the 3rd, 2024. But right here at the very beginning of the show, I did want to give the city of Lyon, France, their flowers because, man, they absolutely delivered, and it was just an extremely electric atmosphere. And you could tell that from the TV screen. The pops that some of these wrestlers got as they came out were hard. Now, that felt like a go-home show. That felt like a Raw after Mania or even a pay-per-view. So that's the beauty of doing these shows overseas, is it's almost like a bonus PLE. And, with the juice that the crowd brings throughout the entire show is pretty much unmatched. And that's something that, us here in the United States, we're so spoiled with WWE shows literally almost every single day. You can't personally go to one every single day, but they're all over the United States of America throughout the week. So the fact that people overseas don't get an opportunity, or the opportunities aren't quite presented to them as often as they are us, they make the most of their opportunities, and they definitely seize the moment, and they make themselves a massive part of the show. So I wanted to give them a shout out because I do feel like they're the thing that separated this episode of SmackDown. Like, if I was going to take one thing away from this show, what's meaningful, what am I going to remember about this show? It's definitely going to be how intense and energetic the live audience was. So yeah, right here at the very beginning, shout out to Lyon, France. Looks like you guys are absolutely doing what you can to get more shows overseas in your country. So yeah, hopefully we can do just that. But with that being said, I guess we can go ahead and get into this episode of SmackDown. Like I said, aired on May the 3rd, 2024 from Lyon, France. Location breakdown brought to you by none other than DJ Kuzmo. And I mentioned just a little bit ago, highest grossing SmackDown in WWE history. I feel like that's pretty important. That's what the nature of the beast is, right? Like, that's the bottom line for WWE being a for-profit organization, is that they want to make money. And that's exactly what this episode of SmackDown did, more so than any other episode of SmackDown in history. And, you like the adjusted stage. They kind of always have done that for SmackDown here lately, where they'll give them the stage a day early, like the stage for whatever pay-per-view, whether it was Backlash last year, I believe it was in Puerto Rico, and Bad Bunny was there, and we got to see that crowd we got to see the stage a night early. And, ever since then, here we are a year later at Backlash. I think that they're kind of doing the exact same thing, and I'm a fan of it. And you can tell that right away they wanted to get a lot of action, a lot of people out there, get the crowd really into it for several entrances. So they start the show with an 8-woman tag match. We get a babyface team of Bianca Belair, Jade Cargill, Naomi, and Bayley versus Damage Control minus Io Sky and Tiffany Stratton. So we end up getting Dakota Kai, the Kabuki Warriors, and Tiffany. And I was kind of confused at first because Bayley came out and I was, okay, we're getting a women's championship promo here. And then next thing you know, Bianca Belair comes out. And then Naomi comes out. And then Jade comes out. It's like one by one. I'm like, okay. And then Tiffany Stratton comes out. And then Damage Control. And at first I was like, all right, this is a pretty huge cast of characters here. Like, a lot of these people don't even have storylines going with each other right now. But okay, whatever. I'm kind of looking past that. Once I saw that it was an 8-woman tag match, it all pretty much made sense as to why they were doing what they were doing. You want to see if the opponents who are going to be facing off tomorrow can coexist with each other. But nonetheless, the babyface team does get the win after Bianca Belair hits a KOD. And then after this, we get a tag team match. The Authors of Pain going up against New Catch Republic, which Authors of Pain get the win thanks to some interference from Scarlett and Karrion Kross. And throughout the entire night, everybody got a massive pop except for Karrion Kross and company. So that tells you right there. Like, I almost feel like overseas shows and shows where the crowd is just going bonkers no matter what they see because they're just so thrilled to be at a WWE show. Probably a lot of them, their very first one. Others probably haven't been to one in 5+ years, So I think that there's more than enough reason and more than enough evidence to use them as like a litmus test, Like, all right, that they're going to pop for LA Knight. The crowd's going to pop for Cody Rhodes. But if they pop for somebody like Tiffany Stratton, then they're pretty much just going to pop for anybody. And that seemed like how it was for this episode of SmackDown, except for whenever the Final Testament came out there. So that almost makes me think, like, should they just pack it in with these guys? Like, as much potential as I feel like the group has, because I feel like it's built the right way, and it's really rounded out. Like, they have the tag team, like I mentioned, they have the top guy, they have the eye candy, they have the mentor. Every piece that you need to make a successful faction, it seems like they've checked that off the box. Now, why is it that the crowd didn't react to them? Is it because they just don't like them personally? Is it because maybe them as a group just aren't quite getting it done for everybody? And I don't know. That's just, like, as much as I say I want to use overseas crowds as a litmus test for that type of thing to see who's over and who's not over, I do feel like you probably need to see another city's reaction before you just absolutely throw a faction in the trash, So I don't know. I think that it was noteworthy. I wrote it down like, okay, what's up with the Final Testament here? Are they not over? Like, are the fans not feeling them right now? And I'm sure that we will have an answer for that very, very soon. But at this point, I don't think they're doing too hot, despite having all the pieces like I just alluded to. Let's see here. Paul Heyman is backstage talking to Nick Aldis. Paul Heyman and Nick Aldis got a massive pop as well. But Paul actually admits to Nick that he hasn't spoken to Roman Reigns since WrestleMania 40. Like, over a month or nearly a month. Like, that's insane. The fact that you haven't spoken to him in that long. So clearly he lied last week about Roman Reigns pulling himself out of the draft. I don't know where they're going with this. I felt like it was a huge segment. Like, as I was watching it, I was like, I feel like this is a big moment. Like, this is going to be something whenever Roman Reigns does come back that he's probably going to allude to. You lied about, me pulling myself out of the draft or something. I wanted to be the first pick. And there's probably other bones that he has to pick with Paul Heyman just from decisions that he's made or allowed to happen since he's been gone. But I think this was just furthermore a step in the direction of just the complete implosion of the bloodline, or at least the bloodline that we knew. We could see this new iteration of the bloodline have a little bit of a runway here. We could see them have a decently long opportunity to prove themselves, for a lack of a better word, because I don't know if you want to call it like a long program, because I don't think that's going to be the case. I don't think they're going to stay feuding with Randy Orton and Kevin Owens forever. Eventually they're going to have to move on to bigger and better things. But it just seems like it's been so long since the bloodline is feuded with somebody new. Like, we've already seen the Randy Orton and Kevin Owens feud whenever it was Roman Reigns. So if the bloodline isn't feuding with each other, which has been the most entertaining aspect of the bloodline, whether it's Sami Zayn turning, Jey Uso turning, now obviously everyone's mentioning the hints of Solo Sikoa and Roman Reigns possibly being on a collision course. I feel like you have to bring new blood, no pun intended. You have to bring some type of new enemy, a new common enemy or something, to really make this faction have some staying power. Because at this point, I'm over the bloodline. I've been over the bloodline for a little bit now. Well into like 2023, I was already like, okay, like I'm ready for Roman Reigns to lose the championship, and I'm ready to move on and do something else. And I just feel like the gear is stuck on slow burn, right? Like, the whole time Roman Reigns was champion, we were all appreciative of that. Like, ooh, they have a really slow burn here. All this is slow, long-term storytelling, which is fine, perfectly fine. But that doesn't have to be every single aspect of your faction and every program that you're in. You could speed things up a little bit. Maybe go a little bit rapid fire with some of these opponents. Oh yeah, we're going to knock you down. We're going to knock you down. Quickly build a list of players wrestlers that you've gone through, throughout the course of like 2 months, however long it's going to be before we actually see Roman Reigns. But I just feel like if it was like a gauge or like a shifter or something, it's stuck on slow burn. So we need the bloodline to switch gears a little bit and maybe get to something new quick. But speaking of new, instead of the KO show, we get the RKO show. And this is Kevin Owens and Randy Orton pandering to the crowd a little bit, especially Kevin Owens, which he does speak French. So it's not necessarily something that's fabricated, I guess. It is legitimate. I do feel like it's genuine. So great opportunity for him to connect to that crowd and make them feel included. So you definitely like to see that. Paul Heyman comes out. They have a little bit of a back and forth. Obviously, Paul Heyman goes back and forth with Randy Orton and Kevin Owens until eventually Tama Tonga and Solo Sikoa come out, and then we see a brawl, which carries over for a pretty long time. We'll touch back on that a little bit later on in the show. Because up next, we get a one-on-one match, LA Knight versus Angel Garza, and this is whenever the crowd absolutely erupted whenever LA Knight came out. The entrance, the pop, the after-the-match promo that he cut, I think that was more so entertaining than the relatively quick win that LA Knight got after he hit a blunt force trauma on Angel Garza. And then Santos Escobar cuts a promo, essentially just declaring that he's going to win the King of the Ring. And you could bet that LA Knight's going to be in that too. It's going to take place next Monday night, next Friday on SmackDown. I don't know if that is going to like culminate it, but I do know that it's going to start within the next week. So that's all the information I have at this point. We did get a little bit more information about why Carlito decided to do what he did, which is attack Dragon Lee. And that's because he made it pretty clear that he's been gone from WWE for a pretty long time. Like, this is someone that I remember whenever he debuted on SmackDown. He had that lackey. Can't remember his lackey's name, like his big bodyguard that he had. I know that everybody that was watching wrestling at the time can relate and remember, that whole storyline about John Cena being stabbed at a nightclub, and then obviously the whole spitting an apple at people's face. Like, that was just some brilliant character stuff from Carlito that I would love to see him come back and, lean into a little bit as he transforms back into a heel. But he pretty much says that after so many years away from WWE that he finally thought he was going to get an opportunity to have a WrestleMania moment. And he realized that wasn't going to be the case because he was passed by not once but twice by Rey Mysterio whenever Rey needed a partner for WrestleMania. So that's pretty much why exactly he did what he did. But eventually Dragon Lee comes up and attacks him, and we get a little bit of a backstage brawl again. And, I expect that we are going to see more of this in the coming weeks for sure. Just kind of stay tuned because, the LWO is kind of like the Bloodline. Like, they have to feud with each other. If they're not feuding with Legado del Fantasma, then they're going to be feuding amongst each other. So that's kind of just what I've noticed with some of these factions. Is they do get a little bit repetitive, a little bit redundant. And Triple H does like to lean on that long-term storytelling, so he will absolutely milk these types of things for as long as he can. Up next in the show, we get some tag team action featuring the WWE Tag Team Champions taking on the Street Profits, and the Tag Team Champions, that is, get the win here. It's a little bit of a stolen win. A little bit of the non-legal man comes in while the legal man's getting his ass kicked, who I believe it was Theory that was the legal man. He was getting beat up. Next thing you know, Waller comes in, hits a flatliner, bam. The Tag Team Champions, it wasn't a title match, I don't believe, but I do know that they do get a win. And I feel like it has to make you think that we're going to see a lengthy run with Waller and Theory being the champions. Like, why not? They do seem like they make a perfect heel tag team, and they have the capability to do things like this. Pull something sleazy out from their sleeve, and next thing you know, they're able to steal a match here and there. And you'll be surprised how long, you could actually ride the format of stealing wins like this as a heel tag team. It's actually pretty entertaining if you can get creative with it. But next in the show, AJ Styles and Cody Rhodes, they go face to face. And AJ Styles pretty much accuses him of not being focused. He pretty much just says, hey man, like, I don't know if you're more interested in, us being here in France, if you're more concerned with the crowd and making sure everybody's singing your song along with you. But I don't know if you're giving me, AJ Styles, the respect that I deserve. And I think I may have to remind you just how phenomenal I am. He brings up him finishing his story. They kind of allude to the fact that they're both from Georgia, both Georgia Bulldogs fans. I was kind of, a little bit taken out of the moment at that point. Cause I was like, all right, I'm not a Georgia Bulldog fan. I do love the Atlanta Falcons, as you guys know, but the Georgia Bulldogs, that's kind of where it stops right there. I'm like, all right, you guys, you could have made a Falcons reference there and you chose not to. So, yeah, you're going to lose some points if I'm grading you. But nonetheless, it does kind of speed up a little bit. It does kind of take, a pretty massive step forward whenever it seems like there is a little bit of like a mutual respect between the two. Whenever Cody Rhodes makes a quote-unquote too sweet reference, and then AJ Styles throws up the little, the sign, the Wolfpack sign, or the Bullet Club, I guess, now. But back in the 90s in WCW, the Wolfpack, the Clique, they're the ones that was doing the Bullet Club sign, but that's neither here nor there. AJ Styles pulls it out, and then out of nowhere just slaps the taste right out of Cody Rhodes' mouth, and that was something that I was like, ooh, even if that's coming, that will wake you up, that will sober you up. Obviously, Cody Rhodes wasn't drunk, but if you are somebody who's drunk and somebody slaps the taste out of your mouth, you're probably going to come to your senses at least just a little bit. I was kind of surprised a brawl didn't break out, but then it wouldn't have made sense to go from one brawl to another because we talked about how Solo Sikoa and Tama Tonga were brawling with Kevin Owens and Randy Orton. Well, that spilled out into, the arena. They weren't going in the crowd, but they were more so going like near the concession and where a bunch of pedestrians and fans were just kind of walking around, and you'd see four people just brawling with each other. So it was a very violent episode of SmackDown, if you will. It was more so just they were really focusing heavy on brawling, whether it was KO, Randy Orton, and the Bloodline, or, Dragon Lee getting a little bit of revenge on Carlito. I don't know why the name was slipping my mind. Sorry, I'm a little bit out of it with this sickness. It's tough for me to breathe, honestly. As I'm sure you can tell, I can't breathe out of my nose. Like, I'm literally, like, every bit of oxygen and every single word that's happening here is happening with my mouth. So I definitely apologize for the altered show, also because of the construction noises that were going on. So I did kind of have to rapid fire go through that episode of SmackDown, but I am going to give my quick predictions here for Backlash. So let's go ahead and start with Randy Orton and KO versus Solo and Tama Tonga. Give me Randy Orton and Kevin Owens here. Solo Sikoa has not won a match in the Joe Biden administration, it seems like. It feels like he hasn't won in like 4 years. I know obviously it's only been like since August or something like that, but nonetheless, if you're somebody that's supposed to be a badass, you would think that maybe you should win more than you lose, but I know pro wrestling doesn't always work like that, but still, to be on like a 0-35 losing streak, yeah, Solo has kind of found his way on my you-know-what list, just for a lot of reasons. I've always thought he was a little bit overrated. I've always thought that there was just, like, they were trying to force the intimidation factor. Like, the fact that his older brothers are supposed to be scared of him because he frowns all the time. Like, are you kidding me? This dude doesn't even have his own finishing move. He had to rip off Umaga's finishing move. So, yeah, Solo Sikoa, he hasn't won anything with me yet. I'm just being completely honest on that, on that front. But the fact that he can't buy a win, and they're overseas, obviously in France, and I already mentioned that Kevin Owens does speak French, I would be a little bit shocked if KO and Randy Orton lost this match. I just don't feel like there's any reason. Now, I do expect Solo to take the pin because, when you've already lost 36 matches, what's 37 going to do, And obviously they have a new toy in Tama Tonga, so I don't necessarily think they want to give him a clean loss this early. And when I say new toy, I'm just talking about, obviously, how long he's been on WWE. I know that this is someone that's in his 40s already, so he's not like an up-and-coming talent or anything like that, but nonetheless, I think that they want to, make him look as strong as possible for as long as they can. Up next, the Women's Tag Team Championships, Asuka and Kairi Sane versus Jade Cargill and Bianca Belair. I do not see a way in hell that Jade and Bianca lose this match. They are an unstoppable tag team, and this should just be the first step in proving that. Like, you want to make those titles mean something, put them on Jade and put them on Bianca and let them go to work. And I think that they'll absolutely make those belts mean something. I'm just being completely honest. Kairi Sane is a small fish swimming in a big pond whenever it comes to the women that she's in the ring with in this program. Now, I'm not crapping on Kairi Sane as a wrestler. I know that she is very, very talented. Obviously, you don't become one of the biggest stars in Japan if you're not legit inside the ring. But I still think that there are limitations to what she can do, in a world of believability. Is she good enough to go one-on-one with women like Zelina Vega, Tiffany Stratton, maybe, just because how early she is? But I'm more so thinking that, the smaller girls, Alexa Bliss, Nikki ASH, those type of girls. Not Jade Cargill, not Bianca Belair. I think that this is a mismatch, and Asuka's going to have to do a lot of heavy lifting, or Dakota Kai interfering from the outside in order for them to retain their titles, because I think that, it's all but official that they're losing those belts tonight. Next, we have Jey Uso versus Damian Priest for the World Heavyweight Championship. Oh, man. Part of me wants to see Jey Uso with the belt. Like, he's always gone in matches, like especially championship matches. Look at like Roman Reigns and any other time he's gotten an opportunity. You just expect him to lose because it's Jey Uso. Why is he? Are they going to put the main belt on him? But at this point, why not? Like, why not give him the belt? Did you guys see the reaction on the internet of like the phones lit up whenever his music was playing in France? And it was just absolutely crazy. I just wouldn't mind seeing it. It would, without a doubt, officially separate him from his twin brother for the rest of time. Like, there would be no more like, ooh, the Usos are kind of even, and Jey Uso kind of just got a little bit of a push here lately. Like, no. This would be Shawn Michaels, Marty Jannetty type of tag team elevation. Like, one of them is shooting to the sky, and the other one couldn't be more irrelevant. So, part of me wants to root for Jey Uso. I really do. I'll probably go on record and pick Damian Priest to retain his championship just because he barely won it. I don't expect them to drop it from him immediately, but Jey Uso winning this belt and then carrying it to, when do they go to Clash at the Castle? When are they going to Scotland or whatever it is? I think that maybe there's a chance Drew can win it back there, no matter which one of these guys win. But I wouldn't mind seeing Jey Uso have a nice title reign. I just feel like that would be beneficial for not only him, but the company, and probably sell the hell of a lot of merch. But let's see here. We got a triple threat match for the WWE Women's Championship. Bayley versus Naomi versus Tiffany Stratton. I think that this is another time where the champion retains their championship. I apologize. Naomi she had her run, her moment in the sun with the championship. I don't feel like it moved the needle enough, especially in this new era for WWE. If anything, yeah, Tiffany Stratton would make sense, but I still think it's a little bit too soon for her. So it just makes too much sense for Bayley. Tiffany Stratton's going to be champion at one point, here probably sooner rather than later. But not right now. The storyline that Bayley used and that catapulted her to WrestleMania, she won the Rumble. She went and took out the leader of her faction, and that's the type of stuff that you milk. You're not going to have her lose it a month later. So, yeah, give me Bayley retaining her belt. And then we got the undisputed WWE Championship match, Cody Rhodes versus AJ Styles, and I do believe I'm going to go with Cody Rhodes here. I mean, shocker, shocker. Do you guys think he's going to lose his belt right now? AJ Styles is more than worthy. Like, if this was just in a vacuum, right? No one knew the story that Cody just finished. Nobody really knew, where AJ Styles' career is right now and what the future holds for him. If you were just simply looking at this match one-on-one and you ask yourself, could AJ Styles beat Cody Rhodes? The answer is absolutely hell yes. AJ Styles is one of the best of all time, especially the best of this generation. And yeah, dude, I think that in terms of capability, yeah, 100%. But Believability, a little bit less likely because of, we're not in a vacuum. We actually have all of the context, and we know that there's no way in hell Cody Rhodes is dropping this belt anytime soon. In fact, he will probably go into WrestleMania next year as the undisputed WWE champion, and we're just probably going to have to get used to it because he's the face of the company right now. This is who WWE loves. Like, this is the type of wrestler that they love to market and have as the face of the company and wave their flag, so it just makes sense that they're going to have him be the champion for as long as possible. But that does do it for me here, guys, on the SmackDown review. Thank you so much for tuning in and bearing with me on this absolutely tough episode to get through. I know this was awful in terms of my voice and the sickness. And then you factor in the construction. Yeah, I apologize. Hopefully next week will be a little bit better. But thank you guys so much. Enjoy Backlash. Have a damn good rest of your weekend. Walk passionately in the direction of your dreams. And I'll talk to you soon.
Thanks for listening to the WWE Podcast. Don't forget to subscribe on your favorite podcast app so you don't miss a show, or head to WWEpodcast.com. And for all of these shows ad-free, head over to patreon.com/WWE Podcast. Until then, we'll see you next time.